Well, Billy, we're sitting here in a position where I didn't think we'd be sitting personally myself as an Australian cricketer. 3-0 up. Obviously, the Ashes done and dusted again in Australia, unfortunately for England. But look, I guess the question is the easy question to you would be is from your point of view, where's it gone so wrong?
Yeah, I mean, not quite half volley that, Brian, but I'll take it. But I think when it comes down to tactical things, I think we've got a few things wrong. There's no doubt. Obviously, batting first in Brisbane was wrong. You watch Jimmy Anderson, the way he's just bowled in that last innings at Melbourne, and you think, well, in those conditions at Brisbane, why was he not playing? He is our best bowler, and unfortunately, and then you look at Wood not playing at Adelaide. You can look at rotating and resting, but the series was done in 12 days. There is no time for rotating and resting in an Ashes series. When we talk about selection there, you think Broad to Warner early in that series was a must. That was a battle that had to happen. Yeah. And it allowed Warner to get off and running and get a 90. And our two senior guys were on the sidelines, which weren't in the 11. You're a better player when you're not in that 11. And I do believe that England looked the best side that they had in terms of a batting unit. I think just the reality at the moment, we're just not up to that level. I mean, you only have to look at the averages and the stats. The numbers will tell you, if you're averaging under 40 in Test cricket, and you're going out to take on Australia on these pitches, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard work. One thing I would say, and you look back and right from the start, I mean, there was opportunities here for England, and I don't think we can run away from that either. Australia lost their captain 3 weeks before the series. Tim Payne was out. I mean, they dealt with that incredibly well, Australia, and that can rock. I could only think what that would be like for England if that happened. They dealt with that. They also, lost their best bowler in the second Test match and captain again, and they dealt with that really well. And then whoever came in got a fifer. Richo came in and got fifer, and then obviously again they've made the changes again. And Hazelwood's been injured, so there have been things that have gone England's way through this tour. We just haven't been good enough with the bat to capitalise on those opportunities that I think have been presented. But you have to give credit to Australia again. I think again Labuschagne in particular. I think on bowler more friendly pitches than I thought they probably would be. Certainly when you saw the MCG, maybe under the lights Adelaide did a bit, but generally pretty flat wicket. And then with the weather at Brisbane, there was enough in it for the bowlers, probably more so than other series. So. I think their batting in particular, Labuschagne was absolutely outstanding. Actually, Warner as well.
Is there enough emphasis on red cricket? We went through it a few years ago when the Big Bash started.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously, and it always is at the end of an Ashes loss or a big loss. It's always talked about the system. There is a major problem at the moment, the fact that we play all our red ball cricket at the start and at the end of the year, and nothing really or minimal games in that middle period, that July, August, when actually that's the batting time and you want to get out there again when the weather's at its best and score your runs. So there's definitely something that needs to be looked at. I'm not a one that blames the 100 for it because it's only been here. Yeah. It was only here last year. So that's not that didn't have an effect on what we did in India last winter, and it hasn't had an effect necessarily. There obviously has been a lot of concentration on white ball cricket, the marketing, the money side of it, and this, and we've got to make sure again we're giving our next generation players, because again our Test match, our centrally contract players play minimal county cricket, so I don't buy that that's having a massive effect for our big players, but we're looking at producing players that can play Test match cricket, and I think that's not helping our young players gear and get ready for Test match cricket, because they're not playing on surfaces, and the type of bowling that they're going to face is just nothing like they're going to get, certainly on an Australia tour. And you get the impression a little bit that we're trying to please everyone. We're trying to get the 100 in, but we're also trying to keep county cricket the same and play as much as we can. And we've got the T20 as well and 50 over cricket. The reality is something's going to have to give at some point. Now's the moment really in England that we have to start looking forward to how are we going to retain the Ashes in 3 years' time, but how are we going to get back to being dominant at home, being consistent, scoring big volume of runs. Because my other worry a little bit with the Test side at the moment, and that's not necessarily the system, is we've got to enjoy Boland and Anderson while we have, because they're not going to be here forever as well. And that's not to say the guys below them aren't as good, but these are two of the best we've ever had. So there's still a little bit more pain to come.
Another big question over the last couple of days, which it frustrates me personally from an outsider, but Joe Root as captain, two questions probably, I guess, and I'll probably answer the first one. Has he been unfairly treated? My answer is yes. And does he keep his job? my answer is yes again. With that, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I guess the question on that is, when everything's, again, I've been through it, when everything's not going right, it's easy to go the captain's fault. I don't know him as well as you do, obviously. From what I see, he's a very good leader. So I believe he should keep the job. It's easy to sack someone when everyone's down. I guess another part of that is, who does it if he doesn't do it?
No, mate, I completely agree. I've said it before. I believe, firstly, I mean, Joe, he's been unbelievable. This 12 months has been incredible. His batting in particular, he's carried this team. The numbers are absolutely insane, really, how well he's played and how he's dragged England through the last 12, 18 months with the bat. It is quite amazing, really. And I think he has been unfairly criticised. For me, I think he's earned the right to choose if he wants to finish and he's had enough of it and he's done his, I think he's captain more than anyone else anywhere, or is close to. If he thinks he's had enough, then that's his decision. I'm with you. I believe he's doing everything he can in his power. I mean, you could argue a few tactical things, but you can't just leave that on the captain. He's got senior players out there on the field. You've got 11, 12 coaches in the background. There's analysis everywhere, as there is in the modern game. It's not just all on Joe Root. There's other discussions that are happening. So I completely agree. For me, I think not just as a captain, but as a role model, an ambassador, he's as good as we get, I think, in the game, and the way he goes about the game. He's always playing with a smile on his face. He just needs other players around him to step up to his level or somewhere close to his level. I suppose from you guys, everything looks really, really good.
For them to come in and do what they did, I think what you say there is spot on. To see the depth that we have, not shocked me, but the impact that they had on the games was that sort of shocked me a little bit. I think the way that they executed the plans, held lines, held lengths, was outstanding. And that's one thing I've been saying in a few different things, correspondence I've had over here with different people, is that, the depth that we do have, the fact that we can call on a 32-year-old, granted it was on his own home ground and knew the conditions, and he has been unbelievable there at the MCG for the last couple of years. For him to come in and make an impact like that was unbelievable.
Cameron Green, to me, looks like he's going to really help Australia, the balance of the side. And you talked about winning away from home as well. When you go to India and all of a sudden he could be an opening bowler, you play an extra spinner. You can get the balance of a team much better when you've got a genuine all-rounder. And I think he's somebody that obviously you hear about and you look at, and I keep an eye on. And I actually thought he was more of a batsman who bowled, but his bowling in this series, looking at his speeds as well, a bit of the 140s, he looks like he could be the real deal of a bowler. But also when his batting's taking a little bit more time at this level, but he looks like someone who, over the next 10 years, is going to be the key ingredient for Australia winning home and away.
Yeah, so great point, because what we're just starting to see, I think, as I said, his batting's still developing. We're just starting to see the Cameron Green that I've seen in the past with the ball. He started his Test match career, coming off a couple of bad back injuries, and I was lucky enough to catch up with him before the first Test here in Brisbane, and he said to me, I sort of asked him how he was going. It's the first time that I'm actually bowling fit and not bowling to get fit, and bowling overs for workloads. And now he's running in. He's not worrying about his back. He's not worrying about technically where his arms are. He's actually running in and bowling it through to the keeper and trying to get guys out, and which I find fascinating, because he hasn't really been, he spent a little bit of time with that with WA and he got injured. So, you're right. You're spot on there when you say he could open the bowling. He gives you that extra bowling option. One thing I think about with him is not comparing him. I don't like comparing, but the massive role that Shane Watson did in that team when he was playing. We obviously, when Watto retired, we had that little bit of gap there. We didn't quite find that genuine all-rounder. Greeny's definitely that.
And for the next Test match, does Scotty Boland keep his place? I mean, I think we've got to take credit for him coming back, playing one Big Bash game, getting smashed by Mitch Marsh, and then going and destroying England. So we'll take a little bit of credit for that here in Hobart. There's no doubt that will go down in one of the best spells, and actually a great story, really, in Ashes cricket, isn't it, really, to turn up and do what he did, home crowd, absolutely incredible scenes, really. And watching, actually, like I said, I think actually, whether you're English or Australian and you're watching that and seeing how a guy, like I said, at 32 years of age as well, who's worked so hard to get to this point, and you see that happen. It would take a real hardcore English fan not to actually slightly look at that and go, that's incredible.
Well, I think one of the things that stood out for me about that is that it's social media. I've had a couple of mates. Well, Chris Rogers, one, he's received so many messages from friends and family, but a lot of first-class cricketers around the country saying, "Well done, mate, you deserved it, unbelievable." So, as you said, such a great bloke, such a softly spoken sort of guy. I think it was the second Indigenous player to represent his country, and to do that. It brought Bay 13 alive again, the old Merv Hughes sort of area in Bay 13. To see that, as you say, it would have been to not appreciate that and see, well, to see what he did and the reception and support he got. Even he said the crowd were great. Was fantastic to see a bloke who worked so hard and get the rewards. There's nothing better.